I want to just share a few thoughts on what the Global Digital Compact is, what is this process that you are part of now as of today, and what are the milestones going forward. A few years ago, the Secretary General initiated a global conversation on digital issues through a multi-stakeholder initiative. This was the high-level panel on digital cooperation set up in 2018. And I recall as the executive director of the Secretariat spending time with Osama and his colleagues in January 2019, learning about some of their work on addressing misinformation, disinformation, making sure that users in rural areas are aware of the risks associated with these technologies, but also the tremendous work that was being done in promoting content in local languages. And something that Osama said at that time has stayed with me, which is that often you have poverty because you have content poverty. We are poor because we are content poor. And those were his words at that time. So that exercise benefited from inputs across the globe, including India, and resulted in a report which was then taken to member states and converted into a roadmap on digital cooperation. And what is this digital cooperation? This is essentially improving collaboration across borders between countries on digital policy issues. And it is also improving collaboration across sectors, the private sector, governments, civil society, the technology community, academia, so that the digital transformation makes sense for everyone, benefits everyone. So this roadmap for digital cooperation that was launched in 2020 was a significant step forward in the international community's efforts on digital issues. And this is not something that has come out of the blue. There is a long tradition going back to the WSIS process, the World Summit on Information Society, which were first held in Geneva in 2003 and in Tunis in 2005. So they came out with an agenda, the Tunis agenda, and a program that has guided efforts in the multilateral space on inclusiveness, on responsible use of digital technologies. So this 2018, 2019, 2020 efforts were in that context and took it to the next level, given the many, many challenges and opportunities that have emerged since the early WSIS meetings. Data and AI, social media platforms, their immense power, also sometimes the misuse that we've seen of those platforms. Now, when the member states of the UN gathered for the 75th anniversary of the UN, they agreed that one of the 12 things that they would do going forward is improve digital cooperation. So this is how this concept, this notion became mainstream at the UN. And the Secretary General was asked to present a report to the member states on that occasion. And his report, titled Our Common Agenda, suggested that there be a summit of the future. A summit of the future where member states come together and renew their commitment to multilateralism. This, in the Secretary General's own words, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reinvigorate global action, recommit to fundamental principles, and further develop the frameworks of multilateralism so they are fit for the future. And one of the outcomes that the Secretary General proposed for this summit is a global digital compact to be agreed through a multi-stakeholder technology track. The idea being to capture political will at the highest level for an open, free, secure, inclusive, and human-centered digital space. So this is the process that has just started. The summit is to be held in September 2024 in New York. A ministerial meeting would be held this year to prepare for the summit. And as of January this year, Rwanda and Sweden, the two co-facilitators of the technology track, have started holding consultations with all stakeholders, member states, governments, private sector, civil society, academia, youth groups, and others on the process itself, on what should be the content of the Global Digital Compact, and what are the chief concerns, chief aspirations of all the stakeholders. We've had 3 rounds of those consultations in New York, and now the discussion is moving to some themes. These are themes that are picked up from what is said in the common agenda, but have been reshaped in the light of the inputs from different stakeholders. So just to list them, and I'm sure in the 7 tables that we have today, some of these would resonate. The first theme is digital inclusion and connectivity. The second one is internet governance. The third one is data protection. The fourth one is human rights online. Then there is digital trust and security. There is artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. You heard the reference to ChatGPT, which is a kind of generative AI that has immense power. Then there is the issue of global digital commons, including aspects of digital public infrastructure, digital public goods. And finally, how do we accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals by leveraging digital technologies? So these deep dives would result in thorough preparation for the ministerial meeting. And after the ministerial meeting at the end of the year, we will move into a negotiation phase for the Global Digital Compact. So this is a little bit of the context to this process, this outcome that we have started off at the UN. So I want to wrap up my remarks by emphasizing the importance of what you're going to discuss and what you're going to bring to the table. Often in multilateral forums in New York, Geneva, Vienna, Paris, Nairobi, other places, there is a heavy emphasis on policy initiatives, policy thinking that comes from governments. In the digital space, that can sometimes be limiting. The digital ecosystem is co-created with the private sector, with citizens. Therefore, we need to make sure that all those voices are captured. The digital ecosystem is also unique in terms of how it impacts our societies. It's a little bit like the climate change ecosystem or some of these other global challenges around biodiversity loss, around environmental concerns that we cannot just handle by focusing on the actions of governments. Think of India's G20 initiative, the LIFE initiative, where citizens and communities are also sought to be engaged on climate action. So digital must be a multi-stakeholder conversation from the start to the end. And therefore, today, you, the different stakeholders, in this regard, have an opportunity to think about what kind of a digital future that you wish for. What is it that you do not wish for in the digital future? Because let's be clear, these are extremely powerful technologies that can have magnifying impacts, not only in terms of the good that we wish for collectively, but they can also have an impact on some of the asymmetries of power. In the social spaces that we have, sometimes power asymmetries lurk just below the surface. And it's important to not only think about what is being said, but also what's not being said. And I hope the discussions today allow us to surface some of these concerns as well related to power, who does what and for whose benefit, and who benefits and who gets left out, and how can we make sure that no one gets left out if they wish to be part of something. There could be areas where we do not wish to be part of certain solutions that are brought before us. So I hope your discussion uncovers all these aspects of digital and results in a comprehensive report, which we will welcome, which we look forward to at the UN. And I hope that this is also the start of a conversation, that we continue to have these inputs as we go along on this journey to the Summit of the Future. Thank you very much again, and looking forward to the rest of the session.